All right. I think we are ready to start the event today. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming to this first event of the Community of Practice on the EURASHE Community of Practice on Skills. My name is John Altuna. I'm the Academic Vice Rector of Mondragon University, and I will serve today as a host for all of you. And before I give the floor to give the welcoming words by the President of EURASHE, Armando Pires, and also the leader of this Community of Practice, Ulf Ehlers, who will also tell us a little bit about what we have programmed during the session today. I would like to give some welcoming words on behalf of Mondragon University. Let me say that Mondragon University is a member of EURASHE. I'm a board member also of EURASHE, and we are really happy to celebrate this first event of the Skills Community of Practice here in Bilbao. We are in a very special place. I think it's particularly relevant that we organize this event in Bilbao Berrikuntza Factoria, in the Innovation Factory of Bilbao. You will have some opportunity to learn about two very particular campuses, ecosystems of Mondragon University today in Bilbao. The first one is here in this building that we are here. This building is entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. I heard some of you, it doesn't look like a university. It pretends not to look like a university. And well, let me just explain you the logic about this building here. In this building, you will find initially entrepreneurs with their own startups, social innovators in the first layer. The second layer, you'll see very dynamic young people. There are students from our entrepreneurship and innovation undergraduate degree, and some postgraduate students on innovation programs as well. And on the third layer, we have consolidated industries, new industries, and also some economic clusters, mostly related to the new digital economy. So as I said, I mean, this is a relevant place to host this event because, in my opinion, it's also important that universities look for new environments where students can trigger and activate their skills in contact with the real economy and the real world. So having said that, I would like to give the floor to the President of EURASHE, Armando Pires, for his welcoming words.
Thank you, Jan. Good morning, everyone. I would like to start by, on behalf of EURASHE, welcome you all to this launch, very important launch event of our community of practice, skills community of practice. Of course, I want to thank the Mondragon University and Jan and your colleagues for hosting this event. Mondragon University is recognized as an extraordinary example of our higher education institution should be connected to its region. And particularly when we think about the industrial, the local industry. And I believe that when we think about skills, of course, Mondragon is the right place to be to start this very important event. I want to thank you also, and I want to thank Ulf also for co-sharing, or because both of you are the co-leaders of this community. So thank you for that. And this kind of community, the community of practice, as we call it, is the third one that we are having in EURASHE. Over the last year, we launched also 2 other communities of practice. One on research and another one about quality assurance. So this is the 3rd one. And at the end of our event today, Maite, I believe, will explain how we'll operate in the future this community and what we intend to do. Of course, both of you also will explain or will ask for contributions, certainly, how to run in the future the community, the skills community of practice. And I would like also to add that this community of practice, and all of them are central, are crucial for the EURASHE new strategy that was adopted in November by our General Assembly for the next 3 years. And the strategy, with this new strategy, we want to increase the cooperation among members and the partners, and do it through an open and engaged and bottom-up initiative. So it's important that, and I'm really happy to see that we have so many people interested in this community, like we also have many members and people that are interested in the other 2 communities. I would like also to add that the community, and these communities, the 3 ones, will be the core part of EURASHE for the coming years. And the time for launching this skills community of practice is the right time, I should say it, because we started the year, the European Year of Skills, as you know, designated by the European Commission. And by the way, we are delighted of having to have the Commission represented today here through the Joint Research Center with Margherita Bacigalupo. Sorry, it's not easy to pronunciate the surname. So you will provide the keynote speech, so thank you for that. And we also will have our annual conference next June. The theme will be Skills for Europe. So it will be in Bucharest, and I do hope that many of you can join us in this that will be the biggest event of EURASHE during the current year. Well, concluding, I want to thank everyone for coming and express confidence that together we can create many innovative solutions to skills demand. Before ending this short speech, I'd like also to thank all the EURASHE staff, because, as you can imagine, putting this kind of an event in a real stage represents lots of effort from many people. So I would like to thank the staff for doing such a great job. Thank you.
So now it's my turn to say 5 minutes, something about our plans. And I think one thing which would be important to stress in the beginning is probably that actually not son of a pastor, so I am actually used to speak loud in large rooms, but I'm using the microphone. Thank you very much. So actually, the first issue I want to make is that I feel very privileged in this very occasion, at this very place, in this year of skills, actually, together with Jon Altuna, to be able for EURASHE to organize this skills community. The second thing is that the community is, of course, not sitting here in front of you. The community is you. And the community of practice model is really about sharing what your concerns are and your problems are. And the beauty of this European peer learning activities, as you can also call it, is that you can bring your own problem, and while talking to each other, you are abstracting your problem in a way, in a general way, and then you try to find models. And in Europe, you always find models which are working, because we are a very, very diverse context in Europe, with many, many different member states, different institutional environments and so on. And that's the real power of these communities. And then when you have learned something, you can bring it back and recontextualize it into your own institutional format. And that's really the cycle which we wish to see. When I was arriving in Baden-Württemberg, I'm from the north of Germany, and we always look at the southern states in Germany a bit with let's say, a natural distance and feel a bit, you know, this is a typical north-south thing. And when I arrived there, because the government had asked me to be part of a launch of a new university, that was exactly 11 years ago. And I was asking myself, what is this kind of a university? They said it's a dual university. They want to merge 8 existing academies, which were all functioning already 40 years in a dual mode education. And they want to merge it together because they believe it's better to organize the system in that way into a university. And the first thing I did, I was then a very, very young vice president of this new endeavor. I was driving around and visiting all these academies, these 8 academies. And it was very, very interesting, because they were all quite small. Some were quite big, quite large academies, but others were in the rural areas, you know, like having 1,000 students here and 2,000 students there and 3,000 students there, on the border with Bavaria, or on the border with Switzerland, or on the border with France, in really remote areas. And when I drove around there, I saw suddenly that behind every tree there is a hidden champion company, world market leading organization. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. And I started to think about that, and I got into conversations with the people from these companies, which we call dual partner companies. And I really learned about the power of this kind of connection of higher education and the world of work, as we call it in EURASHE. And they were telling me, you know what, if not the government had made this macro level policy 50 years ago, to really decide to scatter around higher education providers in the rural, in the periphery of our country, it would be really, really difficult to be here. We would not be here, we would be somewhere else, either in the big cities or in countries somewhere else. And this kind of policy is really about skills strategies on a macro level. This is really about skills strategies. I also learned that the real dynamism into university systems is actually coming from the outside. It's not that we university professors are sitting together and thinking, what can we do different? How can we innovate our system? No, it's really coming from the outside. And that's the second thing, the second message I want to make, bringing together people like you who are all involved in this business from some angle or another, to let's say, work between education systems and practice systems in your countries. This is, I think, the message we need to amalgamate together into a real, powerful, convincing, let's say, position to bring to Europe. And that's what we want to do here in the skills community. 5 minutes are over. We have, yeah, I'm always talking so long. That's why I decided to do it with a clock.
Thank you.
We have this afternoon the 3 workshops. This morning a keynote, and in between a visit. So it's a really exciting program, I think, where in the end we will look at each other and say, "Wow, the day's over already."
All right. Thank you, Ulf. Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Ulf. And before I introduce our keynote speaker today, we have the honor to have Margarita Bacigalupo with us today, who will set up the scene for this community, for the debates that will generate in the workshops, etc., etc. I would like to just comment that we have also set up a Mentimeter so that we know each one of us. We will have the opportunity in the informal coffees and lunch and visits and during the bus tour to know each other, but we would like to know which place you come from, we all come from, so that we know how diverse is the audience of this community of practice. So please, here I think you have the Menti code, so please I would kindly ask you to ask where you come from. Okay.
Yeah, the code it's not there.
Well, I could spell it, the code. I think there is some problem with the internet connection.
Yes. Maybe we can move on to the next one because there is an issue with the internet in the venue, so we cannot activate.
So we will come back to the Mentimeter just to know as soon as we solve the internet connection issues. All right. No, we will come back to the code of the Mentimeter later on. Right, so as I said, I mean, we have the honor and the privilege to have Margarita Bacigalupo with us today as a keynote speaker. Just let me know a short biography about Margarita to know the relevance of the work in the context of the community of practice that we are celebrating today. Margarita works in the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, in particular in the innovation policy and economic impact unit of the Joint Research Center. And currently she's also a project manager of the Partnerships for Regional Innovations, which I'm pretty sure that she will explain us the relevance of this new activity that the GRC is launching. But as relevant as her work nowadays in the unit, I would also like to stress the fact that she has been leading the development of the entrepreneurship competence framework, the digital competence framework, and also has been editor of the sustainability competence framework. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of us have read these documents and have served us in the academic in building a curriculums based on her work there, and I'm pretty sure that she will comment. So with all in all, I think she's the best person that we can have just she's an expert in the field of skills and competencies, and she will guide us in the debates that we will have around the workshop. So please, Margarita, thank you very much indeed for accepting the invitation to come to this community of practice, and the floor is yours.
Thanks. Does it work? Yes. Thanks, John. Thanks, EURASHE, for the invitation, for Mondragon to hosting the event. I'm delighted to be here. As I was telling, is my first in-person presentation since February 2020, so it's a celebration moment for me. and it's a celebration moment to be here with you to launch this community of practice in the European Years of Skills. So it's really a joyful moment, and I hope that with the presentation I'm making, I'm going to bring some food for thought and food for discussion within the community, but you have to bear with me. I'll jump around with these slides and try to bring you along this journey. John, if I go over time, you let me know, because I also tend to speak a lot. So I now work in this concept that is partnership for regional innovation. I now give you a slide in which every word counts. So partnership for regional innovation is a new strategic approach. So a framework is not a policy, is something that we are developing at the Joint Research Center. And you may know that the Joint Research Center is the research arm of the European Commission. We do research in support to policy making. We don't do policy making. So this is an important element to consider in what I'm going to say and in how we are going to see the impact of PRI in your further work. So it's a new strategic approach to innovation-driven territorial transformation that is based on the experience of smart specialization, but links EU priorities with national plan and place-based opportunities and challenges. So every word counts because we start from the place. So I think that especially here in the Basque Country, with the example of Mondragon, the place is the place where things happen. And this is why we are in this building, and this is why we are also going to visit the next campus, who are physical places in which things, innovation, and innovation-driven territorial transformation can take place. So this is the starting point. This starting point is also building on the experience of smart specialization, which, on the other hand, is a policy, is linked to funding from the EU, the ERDF, are based on the smart specialization strategy of territories, and there is absolutely no competition between PRI and smart specialization. The enabling condition are the smart specialization one. But what PRI tries to do, this new concept, is to mobilize funds and attention beyond the availability of regional development funds. Because, as you know, regional development funds aim at cohesion, at strengthening the territories to reduce the innovation divide, while there are other tools that are used to foster excellence, like the Horizon Europe instruments at European level. However, if you work by silos, you hardly pull together a strategy that is able to support you in addressing today's big challenges, among many, the climate change. So what PRI does is to move the attention from research and innovation, which is the core of smart specialization, to a broader set of policy areas, try to conduce them together, and education and employment policy are part of the picture. So, but we are looking at the boundaries. We are trying to strengthen these boundaries. So we are trying to mobilize all the policy fields to achieve the twin transition. And an important element of PRI, which is at the core of having coming together in an association like EURASHE, or coming together even more in a community of practice, is connecting multi-level governance, so regional, national, European level, but connecting also the ecosystems. So you may know that there are upcoming calls from the Commission on the concept of regional innovation valleys and the interconnectedness. So what you are doing now is an element that is going to be boosted in further action. PRI is born to support this place-based identification of local challenges to define directionality for sustainability. So the transitioning towards greater societal well-being is one of the drivers of this new project, this new concept. It has the strong element of catalyzing different level of effort from EU to local effort, enhancing coordination, building on what already exists and the policy instrument that exists today, from S3 to other schemes that are focused on other aspects of research and innovation, and the focus is accelerating transition. One of the main goals is, at the end of the day, to reduce fragmentation. Fragmentation of funding, fragmentation of policy, fragmentation of competencies across territories. So places where technology is or innovation is developed and places where it's used. By connecting, we are distributing the knowledge and the capacity to act together towards these common challenges. So how do we do it? How does PRI propose to seed this transformative innovation approach? There are 3 pillars that have been conceptualized in a first playbook that was published more or less 1 year ago that addresses three aspects. One is the strategic policy framework, which is the development of territorial strategy that align multiple policy and funding schemes. With directionality at the heart, so the intention to go in a place that is beyond growth, is societal well-being. Then it relates this vision, this setting of priorities that are made at local level but pull together all the instruments available. It's done through the entrepreneurial discovery process, advanced plus, call it the way you want. We call it open discovery process because we want to emphasize that if you don't have only growth in mind, but you have sustainability, societal, environmental sustainability, the stakeholders that you involve are diverse, are more than they used to be, and they are dynamic configuration. Depending on the goal you set, the people you involve are different. So we are emphasizing the importance to go beyond the thinking of the triple helix to open up. And for instance, the example we were discussing yesterday, in Mondragon University, students are part of the General Assembly. So these are partners that can be involved in an open discovery process that not necessarily are always involved. And then the policy and action mix, so which focuses on mobilizing all available resources to obtain, to proceed towards sustainability, sustainable development, and challenge place-based challenges. And this means different type of European funds, but also the mobilization of national funds, of regional funds, and of private capital. So it is making all things work together, working towards the same objective that have to be rooted in the context. What Ulf was saying before is essential, is the territory that has to have a strategy to develop. And this has implication if you take it from the point of view of the university. You can ask yourself, what does or professional higher education institution, what does it imply for us? What does changing the strategic framework towards directionality means? Does it mean, for a perspective that is from policymaking point of view, it's about breaking the silos across the policy domain, as I showed before. But does it mean breaking the silos between the mission at the university level? Does the 3 missions serve the purpose of territorial transformation, or are they an hindrance to it? Should we pursue one mission that is societal well-being with different instruments? So I don't have the answer, and they are not in the playbook, so don't run and download it, but you won't find the answer. But it's a relevant question. Who are the stakeholders that we have to involve? Is the business sector, the economic ecosystem, the only part that we have to involve, or there are more actors that can help us reach the objective? And the transition in a fair way, because if it depends on when you are. If you are transitioning from a fossil fuel dependent economy to a sustainable economy, this will create tension. So it's not only with the industry, but it's with the territories, not only with the workers, but with the family of the workers. So it opens up a series of interesting questions. And also in terms of policy and action mix, what are the resources that you can bring, what are that you can mobilize beyond the institutional funds of the organization you are part, beyond the typical Horizon project that you are used to bid for and possibly win, but what are other instruments that you can use to be an active player of this transformation that universities are called to be a main actor. And if you have listened to Ursula von der Leyen in Davos and the clean tech and the Green Deal industrial plan, you see that skills are at the core of this transition. Not that she said anything new to you, but it's important that all, again, even if we talk industrial policy, skills are one of the core elements of this policy priority. So what we have done so far is to publish a playbook you can download with a QR code that presents these 3 pillars, as I've described them, plus 68 evidence-based tools for policymaking. So tools that are developed mainly in the JRC, but not only, that can help policymakers in turning the pillars into action. We are now working on a pilot with 74 territories. It's going to end by the end of May, and we are working with territories to refine this playbook. So the playbook is available for everyone, but is under testing and is going to be revised just after summer with the contribution of the stakeholders that are involved, that took part in this pilot. And again, going for PRI in this pilot is a totally voluntary exercise. There are no money involved. Is like the work you are doing within the skills community of practice. You have to believe in it, engage in it, be part of it, to be an actor of the change you want to see in the system. So, to link to the competence framework, which is the focus of what I want to share with you today, I point to this tool number 56 in the playbook, which is the competence for the twin transition. And it's clear that the questions that you see on the screen are the questions that I believe most of you are asking yourself. What are the skills that people need to fulfill their aspiration and contribute to the shared responsibility? How can people be equipped with a set of future-fit competencies when the world changes so fast? How can people be prepared for jobs that don't exist today? How can education and training institutions be actor of change in this joint run for a twin transition? And there are multiple aspects, multiple answers to all these questions. What I'm bringing today is a view on the competence for lifelong learning, which is not skills. Competency, you know, in the European education policy framing are a combination of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And attitudes are gaining more and more importance and more visibility. So we are looking at elements that I'm sure are part of your debate, and I want to see today in the workshop to come out what are your views on lifelong learning versus education and training provision within set time frame, and what is the difference or the combination, how can transversal skills be combined with sector-specific skills. So what does it mean to combine the green competencies with the green skills that you need for hydrogen, to set up an hydrogen valley or interconnected valleys. So for me, I'm a very visual person, and every time I try to explain competence framework to people that are not from our sector, I have difficulties. So you will see a lot of images. For me, competencies are like stars in the sky. There are plenty. If you look up, you just see stars, and unless you have been taught how to recognize them, is hardly the case that you can do. So here it's not very visible, but you see something. Some of you will see the Big Dipper on that side. Some of you will see the Ursa Major, so the big bear. If you were Navajo, you would see the revolving mail. So constellations are social constructs. They are based on consensus, but they don't describe reality if not for the use you want to make of them. So the stars that are in the Ursa Major, they are not on the same plane. There is no trip to the sky that can bring you to the Ursa Major. But the Ursa Major is there to help you locate yourself and decide where you want to go. So competence are like constellation. They serve the same purpose. You have to ask yourself, as an individual, as an education and training provider, as a teacher, what are the competencies that you want to foster? Where your learners are, where you are as a learner, lifelong learner, and where you want to go. And then you use this reference framework that the Commission has made available. These are, the image is the image of the 8 key competencies that was published originally in 2006 and revised in 2016, in which you see STEM, of course, languages, literacy, cultural awareness and expression, civic competencies, and then 3 on which the JRC has worked: digital competence, personal, social, and learning to learn competence, entrepreneurship. You don't see here things like sustainability competencies. In 2018, there was the revision of the framework, and sustainability was identified as key, but transversal and being resting on the element of the others. So it's true that in this definition, like the constellation, you can see the Ursa Major or you can see the Big Dipper. It depends. Where is entrepreneurship competence? The Big Dipper is a smart of the Ursa Major, and then there is other combinations that are possible. So what I want to say to this is that you have to agree on the constellation you want to see and you want to use. And this agreement, the good things of having framework is that it provides a map that everybody can use and can say, listen, among these, I use this, this, and this. And this is also to create a dialogue between the world of education, including professional education, and the world of work. So in the example that Ulf was bringing before, it is essential to have a common language if you want to establish a dual partnership with the territory and they speak a different language from yours, then you have a problem, or you have to create consensus or a common understanding from zero. With the competence framework, you have a starting point. Again, these competencies are there to have been described to support different goals. So supporting learners in personal fulfillment and lifelong learning development, to enhance their employability, the social inclusion, their active citizenship, to support sustainable and health-conscious lifestyle, to help them thrive in peaceful society, but also they can be used to develop skills for smart specialization, for industrial transition, and for entrepreneurship, which is one of the specific objectives under policy objective 1 of the ERDF. Now, new metaphor. Atoms and molecules. This is just to help you see these things from different point of view, so that you find, if you are a chemistry teacher, if your background is more in other domains, you can find way to understand the flexibility of the tools. So competencies can also be seen as atoms. Frameworks are like molecules. They are a combination of atoms. But then molecules are simple or complex. So by combining different frameworks or by creating different aggregation of atoms in job profiles, in qualification, you use the competencies the way they are supposed to be used as element to achieve something else. This work, I think this is a very interesting blog post from Ibaka. I put the link because it's a different way of seeing things that I thought it is interesting. Key competence framework. The one that we have developed at the JRC are DIGCOMP, Digital Competence Framework, which has gone through 4 editions since 2013. You don't see the 4th, but it has come out. I don't know if I forgot to skip it or is the projector. There is one that came out in 2022, which is DIGCOMP 2.2. Then there is EntreComp, then there is LifeComp, and then there is GreenComp. EntreComp is entrepreneurship, LifeComp is personal, social, and very important for lifelong learning, learning to learn, and GreenComp is the sustainability competencies. if we go around on the bus, you can ask me all the questions. If you want details, I can help you, but I don't take more time to enter in the details of the frameworks. I just want to share with you the way they are built, and I take the example of GreenComp, which is the latest of the family. So we always do a scoping study, so we always map the literature, academic and grey literature, to understand what is known about this constellation, how they have been defined in different settings. Then we create proposals that are validated with experts. And again, this is an exercise of contextualization. Many of these frameworks have been defined in Australia or in the US or by the United Nations. So we make sure that we create a proposal that is acceptable transversally across member states in Europe. And to do this, we consult experts in the domain, subject matter experts, but also stakeholders that may not have direct expertise on the topic, but have the capacity to see the implication at territorial level. So then we normally make various iterations of proposals. We consult again with different stakeholders. One way to do it is to go to Brussels through the open method of coordination to meet the member states and the representative of member states in the education area, together with the GEAC, or to participate to the working groups with DG Employment, and until we reach a consensus, a stable basis that leads to the framework publication. So again, this is consensus building, so don't believe that the framework contains the truth or they are binding. They are there to show a consensus that has been reached at the European level, and they can be adapted. Last metaphor, how do they combine? So for many years, especially at the beginning when the first framework existing were the language framework, that this has not been developed by the JRC, or the DICCOM framework, people thought that naturally that you had to take DICCOM and make it become a reality. So like you have a nice Lego box of the spaceship, you take all the pieces, you put them all together, it may take you more or less time, but then you have your nice spaceship. And then you say, now the new box has come, Christmas 2022, I buy myself the Lego architecture, Entrecomp, and I start building on all the things that bring me to reproduce what's in the framework. But this is not what we want. We want a Lego classic. So we have the bricks, and it's up to you, it's up to anyone working with this framework to use them as creative supplement. So they are not there to be reproduced. They are there to be combined in a meaningful way. So they have a logic behind, but the logic that you may want to apply to your specific reality may be completely different, and you are entitled to. And when you have a community of practitioners to share your views, you can learn from peers, you can see things that you don't see, you can experiment, you can learn by doing and by sharing. So the framework are the ideas included in the creative set of all competencies. So they are cluster constellation that we have ready-made to help you in approaching these competencies, but the freedom is great. Actually, when I talk to people that are in the education sector, I take always this example, which is, I don't know if you are aware of this work of art from Ai Weiwei, who used 1 million pieces of Lego bricks to portray the 43 students in a teaching training academy in rural Mexico that were kidnapped and killed by the police. So this is the kind of work you want to do with the competencies, being able to be an autonomous thinker, to play a role in society, to have your say, to do things, 1 million pieces if you need, but not just the 15 competencies that are in entrepreneurship competence framework, which I made, so it's the best. And we have to go beyond the thinking of the framework. At the JRC, we have done a lot of material to help implement this framework, but again, this ends with the community of practice. I think the slide will be shared, so you will have the link. The community of practice is where the things happen. So we have created support material because there is demand for support material. Example of how people are using the framework, but then the real transformation, the place where these frameworks are appropriated and they become an instrument for territorial development, for transformation, for transition, for making those plans that go beyond education and training curricula deployment, but have this transformational aspect, is through a community of practices, through practitioners. The last slide I have is an advertisement. If you are into it, we are working on a deck of cards for educators to shuffle the competencies, so to break the silos of the pages of the 4 booklets that are separate. You shuffle the competencies, you pick up the one that you decide to work on, you pick up the one that if you put them face down, they come up and challenge you to bring together, I don't know, collective action, which is Green Comp, with digital content creation, which is Entrecomp, with well-being, that is DICComp, well-being, life comp, and spotting opportunities. You get these 4 cards, and what do? You have to break your own mental silos to come up with an activity that is meaningful. And we pair it with cards that help in setting an educational activity, in planning an educational activity, and with different teaching and assessment methods. So again, is experimentation. They are creative tools, like the creative Lego supplements, for you to appropriate and make what is meaningful to your context. And I think I stayed in time. This is my email if you want to follow up. The playbook you can download with the image, and from the presentation you have the link to all the rest. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Margarita, for your review on regional innovation and partnerships, and also linking to the to your work and on the competences framework. And I like that idea of the constellations and the social construction of competences. So I think we have like 5 to 10 minutes time for questions for the audience. So I think we have a microphone here that if there's any question to Margarita, please.
Also criticism is welcome, because as you see,
comments, questions. We have the great opportunity to have her here. So. Buddy? John.
I'm my next role as the moderator, and I have some questions prepared for you. So, but look, you can answer one now. So I guess I know this is not easy, linking competencies with regional innovation. I know it's not easy, but how do you think in practice governments with their education training institutions can try and do so, link the competencies with a specific regional demand that is needed for a specific place, a specific industry in that place. Of course, we're all going through the green and digital transitions, but that varies from region to region in their trajectory. So how to actually select your cards from your card pack at the end, and then somehow putting policies in place, either the government or within the institutions, to build those competencies using the framework to give industry what it needs for development.
Thanks, John, for the easy question. So for me, what is important is to highlight from the work that we have done is that if we focus only on skills, we reduce the richness of what competencies are. So there is for instance, I give you a very personal example. I've worked in the air traffic control domain. I've worked in robotics for dementing illnessing. I worked in milk factory industry. I've worked in the European Commission developing entrepreneurship competencies, and I now work in a different domain. What are the skills that I've been given by the magic university I've been through? They are the transversal ones, because the knowledge, the sector-specific in complex domain, air traffic control, safety-critical domain, or food manufacturing domain, or dementing illnesses, and robotics for treating them non-pharmacologically. The elements, the competencies that I have been taught at university or in my lifelong journey I have developed are not the robotic skills or the air traffic controller skills or how to automate a packaging line in a factory. So the element of the working together, being able to present your ideas to an audience, all these competencies are necessary also to transition between domains, which is something that not everybody has the chance to do like I did. I'm a bit of a special case, but if there is a transition ongoing in your context, then you have to have this capacity to adapt, and is not with the specific skills of a domain, because if that is the case, then you have to reskill or upskill. But if you nurture these transversal competencies, the lifelong learning competencies, then you are fostering the capacity to adapt on the one end. And so for me it's important to although it's easier to talk about skills because everybody it's a shorter word simply than competencies, which is so it's important that you as key stakeholders bring along the complexity of a mix of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And then again, by avoiding to think about this framework as normative framework, because once they are there, people can use them in the way they want, including saying this is normative, we have to do all these competencies, but then we lack that competence, so the framework is not good. So it's not that the exercise to do. The exercise to do is to reason about the set of competencies that make sense in the local context, reason it with all the stakeholders in an open discovery approach, and try to build pathways that make sense for the territorial development of that specific context. And I think that this is working, which Ulf has made reference to, and makes sense, but is a continuous dialogue and is not something that is static, because also the world is changing so fast that you cannot plan in the 70s and hope that it will work in 2023, which in some cases is the case. There are laws, the education curricula that have been in Italy. There are some of the laws are seen from 2 centuries ago. So there is a need for adapting, and these are tools that provide the ground for discussion.
Okay, that's a good answer. We're going to move on to the panel. So if somebody remembers a question.
There's one question, Maite. You could please introduce yourself before you make a question, so that everybody knows.
Thank you, Margarita. My name is Henning Klafke from the Berufliche Hochschule Hamburg, University of Applied Science. Thank you very much for the presentation and how about doing this or about establishing this competence framework. I have a question regarding the second last slide, as you have mentioned, right. Is there more? Because as you have said, competences can't be taught. You need to develop competences. So didactical approaches are very interesting for teachers, for lecturers, are also maybe some best practice or examples inside of the framework how to develop competencies?
That's again a very good question. You have to think our role as Commission is not to tell member states or region how to teach these things is to create material that everybody can use to orient themselves. However, there has been demand on supporting, and this deck of cards provides a series of teaching and assessment methods that are meant to foster. And I think there is nothing that you would find surprising. It's all active learning methodology. It's all, there are 7 different peer learning, value creation pedagogy, project-based learning, all things in which students do something meaningful for someone else. That is their peers, that is the community, that is the business for which they are doing a project for and have received the briefing. And again, the assessment methods have to accompany this. So you cannot ask learners, or you can, but you take responsibility for that, to do a project and then test them on a rubric of knowledge statement, because it doesn't support and it doesn't recognize the learning pathway that they have been doing. So peer assessment, self-reflection, expert assessment, there are different approaches that can be used. And again, with a very humble attempt, saying you don't have to read a framework, or you don't have to master the manual of innovative pedagogy and innovative assessment to change the way you teach. Take one of these cards, start from where you feel comfortable, and then pick the next one and try and experiment and learn with your students and learn what works. So they should be ready in by summer. The content is there. We are about to go printing, and drop me an email if you want a copy.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Is there one final question? We still have 3 minutes before we head to the panel discussion. No question? I have one question regarding the classical division between hard and soft skills and competencies. And you also refer to transversal skills, which will come up in one of the workshops in the afternoon. Does it make sense nowadays, in the context of the current society, to talk about hard and soft skills? Those who are currently framed as soft skills, are not they becoming hard skills nowadays?
It's the same question as the meaning between non-cognitive and cognitive skills. I studied cognitive science, and I cannot understand how someone can think that creativity is non-cognitive. So because you don't learn it by heart, so cognition is learning by heart, there is a consensual definition of what these things are that maybe needs to be revised. So again, what is soft, what is hard, does it really matter? The important is it matters as long as policy documents say things that then don't reflect the reality that you wanted to implement. But what I want to say is that, like with the competence framework, we create a common language, and we open the room for discussion of these terms. Also, the definition of cognitive, non-cognitive, hard and soft, transversal and sector-specific, they have to be addressed when paving the way for the new curriculum, the new qualification, the new program at the university, or a strategy for skills development for a territory. If not, if we give for granted, we stay in the past.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Thank you again, and I would like to invite you to join our next session, and I will move from the panel, and I would like to invite to the panel, to our next panel discussion, Adolfo Moraes, from the Vice Minister for Universities and Research from the Basque Government, Iñigo Larrea, the Head of Talent Management of Mondragon Corporation, Ulf Ehlers from University and Dual Hochschule Baden-Württemberg, and Margarita also to join us with John Edwards, the Secretary General of EURASHE, who will moderate the panel discussion. Thank you.
We are missing seats.
No, I'm going to stand here. Please.
Okay.
I'm going to stand here. And thank you, John. This is the last part now before we have a coffee and a visit, stretch our legs. I'm calling it the island because I don't know how to pronounce the name, but it sounds good. Not the weather for a sort of sunshine and Spanish island, but we are in the Basque Country, after all. And I would like now to introduce the panelists. I know you briefly, John has, but just to say that, of course, we have Adolfo Moraes here. He's the Deputy Minister for Universities and Research, I believe, and for some time now, because I met you more than 5 years ago. But Adolfo has served the region in many other roles, as well as, I think, from mathematics, is that right, to meteorology even at some point. And I know that you're the director of the Polytechnic Institute of the University of the Basque Country as well. So you understand all our concerns in the higher education sector. And then Inigo. I'm not even going to try and pronounce oh no, it's a Lenera. So yeah, I'm getting mixed up with Inigos now. Actually, I've met so many. We've been in the Basque Country now for a couple of days because we've had a project meeting working with the vet providers. And this is important for the regional dimension of skills, is that different elements of the education and training sector work together. And we have Inigo, who I can't pronounce his name, and Unai is at the back, and other people here. Thank you for coming. So part of this ecosystem in the Basque Country, of course, is Mondragon University. I'll speak loudly. Is Mondragon University, and Inigo there is the director of sorry.
It's okay, it's okay.
Mondragon Corporation, and he is the director of talent in Mondragon Corporation. Okay? Yeah. The corporation covers many cooperatives, including university, but not also
Technician is there, so we trust he.
Used to work for one of the other cooperatives, the corporation, right? The consultancy. So you're part of the family, let's say the Mondragon family for some time.
Yeah, for many years. I mean, for more than, I would say, 20, 25 years. So we've been in many cooperatives, industrial cooperatives, consultancy, now in the corporation.
And it's an amazing experience if you ever get to go to Mondragon. We build down now, but Mondragon and all what they're doing there. So he's obviously working closely with the university, with other higher education institutions, TVET as well, in order to provide the talent for the Mondragon Corporation and the business sector as a whole in this region. And then Ulf needs no introduction. He's our vice president of EURASHE. But in addition to starting the Dual Hochschule Baden-Wurttemberg, as he's mentioned, he leads a very interesting research unit in that university now on NextEducation. I'm sure it tells all about it, the Next Skills Research Group. And finally, Margarita has been introduced. Thank you again, Margarita. I would like to just be a bit provocative by saying I wonder why your president didn't call it the European Year of Competences, given that you've been working on this for 10 years and you are knowledge for policy unit at the Commission. Maybe that message didn't get through, but I can see that skills are clearly easier for people to think. But on a serious note, I think it's what we need to reflect also with the vet partners, is that makes sense, that we need the competencies. But the political message from the European Year of Skills is that we have skill shortages now. And I think talking a little bit about, oh yeah, we've got people with competencies and bring the future, might not satisfy the politicians today. So we need to kind of mix these two things and see what our role is as professional higher education institutions in the delivery of also what the industry needs now. And I know that's part of it, but that's just a provocative start. I'm going to go into it now and ask Adolfo, so you can introduce yourself more about what you do in the Basque Country, how you link to the smart specialisation, the higher education sectors linked to the smart specialisation strategy, and you know what, how has the Basque Country managed to take a transition that you've had in the past and now in the future with your higher education institutions?
Doesn't know. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this round table or table for discussions. Well, you made it very well. So basically, I mean, in the past, I've been occupying different positions and jobs. Starting, I would like to say that I started as a school teacher, okay? So in my, professional background, I would have to mention that I started teaching 35 years ago computer studies, okay? So somehow helping on the digital competencies many, many years ago. So in fact, I was the person who in my school put in into work the lab for what we used to call informatics, okay, at that time. So, and later on I joined the engineering college, which is very similar to, let's say, a German, Fachhochschule in the time. And then progressively, I went to different positions. And yes, I've been at the government as well in very different positions, starting from, being the director for meteorology at one time, So, and finally, the Vice Minister for Universities and Research for quite a long time, yes, 8 years' time. Well, the thing, why do I say that? One thing that I would like to say is that we had many slides about, galaxies and planets and constellations and so on. And we have today, this green comet passing by, every 15,000 years. One thing that I would not like to be green and digital transition is a comet, okay? Something that comes, you see it and it goes. So basically, my view on the green and digital transitions, as well as in other issues, is that, the main component is collaboration. And I was talking previously a little bit with Margarita about, that, I mean, in my belief, and this is the way we do it in the Basque Country, collaboration is at the core of the policies, okay, educational policies. And it was mentioned before, the collaboration with the professional sector, with companies and so on. And it's, I mean, in my opinion, it's true that when we see from the Basque government perspective, the future of the higher education in the Basque Country is very much linked to others, okay, to the professional sector, public or private, okay? We have a long tradition of collaborating with industry, okay? We also have a long tradition of collaborating with the public administration, for example, in the training of teachers, okay? And I mean, in my view, it's very helpful to have these kind of proposals for frameworks for, competencies and skills. But one thing that is clear to me is that, for someone that started in a school and finally ended in a government, I mean, my case is that you need to build up these competencies and skills, in a long path, professional path. So the role of the universities, first of all, would be to link to, the professional sector and to somehow absorb, the needs so that they can effectively teach students, okay, and forward this knowledge to students so that in that long trip, a lifelong trip, they can manage and do well in all the different, projects that they will face in the future. So collaboration is a must in the Basque Country and in Basque government policies, collaboration in the framework of the
risk-free strategy where universities play a major role, okay? Again, in collaboration with, okay, that is very important. And then we also, I also like to say that we need to preserve some issues that are very relevant in higher education, such as the autonomy of higher education to, provide education and to provide programs. So basically, what we are doing, we have a framework for the whole university system. Mondragon University is one of the 3 universities of public interest in the Basque area. So we promote that all universities have frameworks for, okay? So they have their own models for the 2030 agenda. This is something coming in the next university plan, which starts 2023 and it goes until 2026. But they have a framework for innovation in education, which is, again, the gate for students to be innovative in the future. They have to develop their own model for university plus business collaboration. That means that they have to somehow acknowledge that they cannot by themselves only teach students, to become professionals. So they embed, businesses in the process. This is, again, a very relevant perspective. So this kind of dual university education that in Spain we have been, pioneers in promoting, and now Spain is trying to accelerate the process in other communities. But in dual university education, again, we have this kind of plus concept where, we have to be sure that these skills and competencies are not only, developed and trained by the universities, but also by the companies, and the tutors. And of course, we have, what is usually very usual at universities is the research, excellence research connected to the market. This is, again, another concept. Collaboration, basically, okay?
Is research excellent if it's not connected to the market? If it doesn't have a use?
Yes, in my opinion, the research must not be all excellent, okay? You need to produce knowledge, and knowledge is not just produced by excellent science, okay? But excellent science usually has many difficulties in connecting with, the market in a short period of time. This is a long process. So that's why we have this kind of label for excellent science, just envisioning the connection of science with the market, okay? And how to do that, that is a very complex process.
And we need a mix. So with our partners in Technica, we're looking at applied research in that as well, because research happens in many different sectors. But this is not the research community of practice, it's the skills community of practice. I would like to ask now Mondragon Corporation, not University, apologies, Corporation, which is really the umbrella of everything that's going on in Mondragon, to talk about how you attract talent for your cooperatives, because that's your job description, isn't it?
More or less.
Yeah?
More or less.
Okay, so
Okay.
do you have a couple of slides yet?
Yes, I cheated. I was told that there was no presentation, but I say I am in Mondragon. I am the leader of one community of practice. So when I heard that this is a community of practice, I say I want to show a little case. It's not the super case, but I think that in this kind of communities of practice, is practicing and learning from practice is. I wanted to share it with you. So I will go quick because otherwise. Well, first, Mondragon, I don't know if you know it, just two things. We are a multi-business cooperative corporation, 70,000 people in 45 countries, 10 billion euros turnover, 80 cooperatives owned by the workers and in 4 different divisions. You will see there we are in finance, in retail or in distribution. In industry, most of the cooperatives are in the industrial sectors, in different industrial sectors, in 10 subdivisions, and the knowledge area, which is made up of the university and 3 BET centers, and also 10 technology centers. So first is how to transform our learning ecosystem. Mondragon, the corporation, was born in the 1940s with a vocational school that today is Mondragon University. With 5 students from this first vocational school, they made the first cooperative, the first industrial cooperatives, and then the university has been growing and supplying talent to the cooperatives and for the rest of the market also. I mean, it's not something close, no? And we are not just close to the university, but it's been like a very, very long success story. We are pioneers in dual studies since the 1960s. Here you can see more or less the ecosystem. The learning ecosystem is made up of Mondragon University on top. Then we have like 3 BET schools, centers, Arizmendi, Leartibai, Chorieri, in different geographical areas. Then you have Lagunaro. Lagunaro is a key element for us. Lagunaro is some kind of welfare pensions fund, which is funding for retirement, for health, and also for unemployment. And in the 2013, we have our biggest crisis. One of the biggest companies collapsed. We have internal rule in Mondragon, which is we have to relocate the people that lose their work or their job in the other companies. So we have to relocate 1,800 people, and most of them with very low skills. So we created EURASHE. EURASHE is the name of a mountain there in Mondragon, but is the, let's say, some kind of employment office. The goal is to relocate these people in the rest of the cooperatives, and then it comes a retraining, because many of them were coming from assembly jobs, which are quite simple in the household equipment industry, and they have to relocate in much more qualified industries. So we started with the typical reskilling. We say, okay, you have to get a professional studies, a vocational study title. And we mobilize something like 200 people in this way. And nowadays the needs are much faster and much bigger. I mean, we don't have to just to relocate this. Nowadays we have 600 people in this office. And they are working in other companies, something like 550, and the rest, they have very hard difficulties to work. And so the relocational effort has been very good, but nowadays we need to go through the transition, the green transition, the digital transition, and all at the same time. So we have to reskill all our workers, not just the ones unemployed, but all the rest that is working. And even the ones that are in this unemployment office, these 600 people, most of the times they are relocated, they are working in other companies. So we cannot go with our traditional learning ecosystem, which is based on students, dual and whatever, but full-time students in their youth, going to labor market and then starting to work and nothing else. So we started to say, okay, what can we do just to accelerate this lifelong learning? And we talking about these 4 things. We talk about planning. In this planning, we say we have to go through, specify as much as we can, what transitions do we need? We have identified 4 transitions, you have it there. One is for R&D, from electromechanical to digital engineering. I mean, we must advance all our products that are smart products, sensorize it with data, with big data, with many other services. And this is a huge challenge for us. And we have many, many mechanical engineers in our traditional industrial companies. So this is one of the key areas. The other one is information technology or operational technology also, which is another area that has boosted with this digital transformation. From being a support structure, they have to be leading a transformation. So there are a set of skills, knowledges, and attitudes that have to be changed. The other one is digital manufacturing, which is going to the shop floor. And then we have like different areas, different targets. I will show you one of the targets, which is the operational workers. But then you have the engineers also for automation. You have the maintenance, which is, we have a lot of needs in the manufacturing area, in this digital manufacturing. And then we have this smart administration or and finance that will that are having a huge change also with digitalization, and we have to re-skill, and we even have people that will lose their jobs due to robotization, to automation of many processes. So let me go to the next one. So the case that just I want to show you is this one, is within this area of digital manufacturing. And we have done it with this consortium that is down there. We have with Mondragon, the Mondragon University, also Miguel Altuna, which is one vocational studies trained, which is here, Unai. He's been very involved in this project also. Udalites and Alecop. Alecop is one cooperative of students. It was born in 1962 as a cooperative of students that needed to work in order to pay their studies in the engineering school in the Mondragon University, and nowadays is a provider of, let's say, training projects and training equipment. But it was very, originally very pioneering dual studies. Well, the issue is with this and with the funding of Lagunaro also and the European Community and CEPES, we don't through this one. The content of the training program is mainly take this digital, this low skill or medium skill people that is working in assembly lines. And as the assembly lines are digitalizing, they have to build new skills to be able to still be working in this digitalized assembly lines. Okay, so the content you have in this panel is how do they manage nowadays that they don't have a draft or an assembly instructions in paper, but they have to go through a computer. Then we have these traceability issues. They have to go with work with cobots, with automated lines, with robots, or they have to do many things, but nowadays in digital, not just in paper or physically. So they have to be learning all these abilities, and they have to put them together. And this is more or less the course. But the main issue here is not what we learn, because this is like we are doing experiments. So now we have up in the MUGI Digitalera. This is the platform, the name of the platform, of the learning platform that we have put in place. And the content, one of the contents is this, we call it ODM, Operario Digital de Montaje, or Digital Assembly Operator. That will be the name of the course. The issue with the course is not the content, but the context of learning. I mean, it's something that has to be learning-centric, and to learn experience is the one that we want to analyze very good, because the rest of the knowledge is, okay, you have to teach some things, but the content is not so much the difficulty. So this is a course that is more or less 40 hours of dedication. They have 6 weeks to do the course, so they can manage themselves. We give them a tablet, we give them the access to the platform, they go through the different modules, and we have a physical assembly line in Miguel Altuna, in this vocational school. And they have a tutor. Each time they go through one of these modules, they can go and physically do the things with the help of someone. And at the end of the process, they decide when they are ready to go through a certification process. In the certification process, they go back to the vocational school, and they go through a certification process throughout all these operations. And is the way we can mobilize people with, let's say, small pills and tutor it, help it, and with a lot of flexibility. And I think this is the key to success, to make something in this lifelong learning experience in which they have to work, they have their own interests, they cannot just go to a vocational school and stay there for 400 hours or for 1,000 hours. And we have to, we want to go through this context. It's very important that this context is very adaptable and is very cheap to adapt to the assembly lines or to the digitalization or a specific cooperative or a specific industry, a specific company. I think we must go through this element of, we talk on a framework that is called learning in the flow of work, which is you must learn while you are working. Now we are digitalizing our jobs also, so we have a tablet, we have a computer, so we can learn in the very place in which we are working when we need it. So we can scan, we can go through a QR and go through a little video that shows us how to do the maintenance of a cobot or how to reset it. And this is the kind of models that we want to make sustainable and implying the learning in every company. And I think I took more than the needed time.
It's an excellent example, and with our community, we are going to be promoting these examples at the European Year of Skills, and that applies to all of your locations as well. We want to hear from your examples. We want to make collections of these to show that this is what the European Commission is exactly what they're looking for in terms of reskilling for the digital transitions, and we want to share that. And the fact that you're cooperating with different levels of the education training community in the region is what this community is all about. We want to work on this subject. So thank you very much for that example. I'm going to pass over to Ulf now, because Ulf is doing this work on future education, future skills. What is this concept, Ulf? Can you tell us what needs our takeaways about what you've been doing in the last few years?
Yeah, it's a very broad question. What have I been doing in the last few years? Thanks. Just a few months ago, it became clear to me again what this actually means, the future skill revolution. That was when the vice president of SAP in Germany, in Walldorf, they have their headquarters, the vice president for human resources gave a press conference, and she announced, she was very new in her job, just 3 months she was then there, and she announced that in the future for SAP, the bachelor and the master certificates of the universities are not going to be the only criterion to employ people into jobs in SAP. And this is just one story, and you have heard the same press conference news from the US and from other regions of the world a year before already. So there are signs which we can perceive, which are questioning actually how we are conceptualizing to prepare people for this economy you were just talking about. So these signs become very visible. First they were only distant, and we thought as higher education community, okay, maybe we can come around it. And now they seem to come closer and inevitable in a way. And now we really have to ask ourselves what to do. And the answer, to make it very short, is a PHE in a way, the DNA of what PHE wants to do, and that's cooperation, like you said it, and that's flexibility, like you said it, flexible learning opportunities, that's learning while you have a problem. In this also lies a big step which you need to achieve, which not every worker probably can perform immediately, that is to become an autonomous learner who can who can guide him or herself through this learning process. So that needs coaching and guidance. And the question is, how do we approach this actually? And you were mentioning future skills work. Actually, the concept of future skills, I more and more question this terminology which we use for that, because I found it quite daring and quite courageous, I think is the word, that you at JRC now go back to using competencies as a term, because we always deliberately used skills, meaning competencies, because we found it so difficult to explain competence. and I think you found an excellent way with the star metaphors and so on. But a future skill is actually a term which doesn't make sense. Skills are always, a term which express that you are able to solve a problem in an unknown future for which you are not prepared. That's actually what it's about, yeah? So it's already talking about future, and you don't need future to impregnate this term again with something which is already in this, yeah? So, but on the other hand, future skills as a term, and that's what we do research on, and we decided to use this term, is very, very popular currently. So future skills is everywhere, Only in the last 5 years, there were 13 studies from McKinsey to real research institutes, from universities to big companies, only in the German-speaking area on future skills. What are the best, the most important, the most wanted, the most sought-after future skills for IT professionals and so on, or for the healthcare worker or whatever, And so this is really a term currently which we can use to let's say, on a level of, to build awareness for a new higher education, for the necessity of a new higher education, let's say, direction which we need to take. And again, I believe very much that much of what we will need in the future is in this DNA, which we are already which we have already built in PHE systems, because we are cooperating with society, with profit, with non-for-profit organizations, and that's very good. Just to give you maybe a glimpse, because you asked for this with research, we basically, what we did is we did a landscape screening. We tried to find organizations in Baden-Wurttemberg, this state where we are situated, which we believed are really, really on the forefront with their thinking about future human resource systems, future competencies, future enabling systems for the workers they are having. And we found 140 of these organizations according to a complex mechanism. And then we put together panels of experts, and we really tried to break them down into smaller numbers. And in the end of the day, we found 17 organizations, which we said, these are really the future organizations. They are very, very far. In these organizations, we went and we did long, deep, analytic interviews. And then we created long inventory lists from these interviews. And we asked the people, what do you believe the people, the members of your organizations need in terms of skills and competencies to shape the future of your organization, to shape the market, to participate in a well-being oriented work environment where you are, to gain meaning and sense in their life from being with you here also, all these things, to the future world of work, so to speak, not only restricted to the company, but also stretching to private lives and societal challenges. And constantly, where people told us, the problem is that the experts today, they're changing their jobs, their positions, maybe the market or the company every 3 years. So it's very, very difficult for us as a company to provide identity to these people because they are gone to another company. So they really need to be experts to, in a way, build identity, build meaning, make sense of their lives and the jobs in themselves. That's basically what they are starting to build coaches on, you know, coaches, mentoring programs, mindfulness programs, and so on, all these things. Yeah? These become suddenly important in these very volatile, let's say, lives. So these are things which are important, and then we tried from these big inventories of all aspects which are important for the future to build clusters and profiles and so, and we arrived at 17 of these future skill profiles. And that's just one way to approach this, of course. I will talk about it a little bit more this afternoon, what really is
your phone is beeped,
the content. Yeah.
And you will hear more
Yeah.
about this, not only this afternoon, but in the community practice.
Yeah. But just one more issue maybe. I was, you know, now trying to approach this issue from a, let's say, anecdotal way and told you a little bit how we approach this and what we found. But I really believe that as a higher education community, we are standing in front of a big challenge, and this is not just because we need skilled workers for the future. This is also because I think that the skills, the competencies which people have are deciding over their access to societal resources also, to democracy, to raising their voice, to making important the point which they have. And I think this is apart from, let's say, the labor market intelligence systems which we are building. This is another issue also, which is really deciding over inequality or equality of the groups, the communities, the countries, the societies we live in. And that's why I think this kind of skills this kind of skill orientation in higher education is a really, really urgent thing to turn to and a big issue. Yep.
And that's why we're here. This is the issue. And I'd like to the last 10 minutes, and hopefully have questions as well, but it's just to go back to the policy context of all this, both Commission and European, but also regional context that also is. What is being done? I mean, we noticed that's a European Social Fund project that you presented, but how to link the skills with the regional development strategy? Because the smart specialisation strategies traditionally been focused on research, which is vital, important, of course, but it's more than that. For industry, we need more than that. So is there anything you can pick out from smart specialisation strategies, both at European but also regional level? A couple of minutes for you, and then I'll pass it to Adolfo. You know, the European Regional Development Fund, apparently fund skills now. Is it happening? Are the member states taking that chance or not?
Well, thanks. Indeed, in the new programming period, the current programming period, there has been a change in the way the enabling conditions are formulated, and smart specialization policy objective number 1, which is more competitive and smarter Europe, as differentiate between R&I and skills for smart specialization, for industrial transition, and for entrepreneurship. So in the big policy frame, there is that. Studied at the JRC within the higher education for smart specialization project demonstrates that there are signs of this taking place, but is the emphasis that PRI, for instance, puts on collaboration, the word partnership, if you look on that wall, goal 17 is partnership. So besides the policy framework, the element of collaboration is really in the core of the PRI project or framework that we propose, and it's through it that this kind of transformation can take place. Also, the use of funds in in a different way and the application of this principle in reality.
Okay. And and here, is your smart specialization strategy only about research and cooperation with industry research, or have you got a human resources?
Okay, no, I mean, the Basque specialization strategy has different pillars, okay, but the major pillar is talent. So basically it's human resources, it's people, training and educating. That is the major one, because we are very much concerned about, the future, and the future is people. And then is research, of course, and it's both basic research, what we call excellence research, international research, and then also applied research. And then what we do is we have multiple level, different programs, and most of them have a focus on collaboration with another partnership, basically industry. But we do that, and I think that this is a very different point. We do that from the point of view of also basic research, okay? What we don't do is, force researchers in basic research to employ much of their time in doing something that there are probably other people that can do much better, okay? So what we do is we create these kind of chains of knowledge, from basic research to the impact in market to businesses. And basically, basic research are now providing the Basque Country. I mean, I'm in charge of that, so yes, please understand that I'm very happy about that. They are creating the major opportunities for the future, like quantum technologies, for example. That would be a major field for the Basque Country in the future, and this is coming from excellence research. So how do you connect this very advanced, knowledge with an industry that is quite far away from that knowledge so far? So what we do is, the programs that we are running right now is connecting the knowledge and the researchers in basic excellence research, with industry. How do we do that? Adding different elements to it, basically adding other stakeholders to the equation, so that, all that knowledge can be transferred quickly to industry. So yes, we have a comprehensive program for, all the different stages, and embedded, it is, this kind of impact, social impact view in the Basque Country.
And do you use the technologies as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One addition to that, because you asked about regional smart specialization, there was just a study which was trying to contribute to such a strategy in Baden-Württemberg, in the country where I'm from, Germany. And that was, the government had a very simple idea, which sometimes is performed in this field. And they were just like collecting 1 million job ads. And then they used machine learning procedures to cluster the skills which were sought after in these job ads. And so what they did is they created a blueprint plan for the future of, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years on skills sought after in the different branches and industries and so on. And the interesting thing is, or was in this study, which just came out 8 months ago, so I think it's even published in English and you can download it. It's called Future Skills in Baden-Württemberg. And very simply done. You can do that very quickly because the data are available at LinkedIn or Glassdoor or whatever the companies are called. That future skills, transversal future skills, being able to take responsibility, to communicate in an empathetic way, and so on, ethical competencies, turned out very, very high in this future competencies. And while let's say the traditional hard skills, or I don't know how we should call it in the future, were there as well, and while these are not at all posing problems to the universities, because we are excellent in teaching our curricula, that's what we can do, are these future, transversal future skills, they are a real challenge to the universities. You know, initiative and thinking in alternative futures, designing skills and so on. These are things, bring interdisciplinary work and so on. This is something which is really a challenge.
We've only got a couple of minutes left, but rest assured, because this afternoon you'll get a chance, in fact, you're obliged to participate this afternoon in the workshops we have, which are discussions amongst in the groups. But if there are any questions here, you've still a couple of minutes to any of our four panelists, this is your chance. Yeah, and Manu? Yeah. You have to stand up again, unless you
I will, because we are streaming, I think, so it is important to speak to the micro. And I was thinking about, is there a secret in your model? Because it seems so perfect. The Mondragon cooperative way of doing things, why is it not spread enough, I think, to other regions, to other countries? What is the secret?
This, well, it's quite hard to answer this question, but our secret is our limitation also. Mondragon is an ecosystem. You have to look at it as an ecosystem for learning, for research, for financing, for welfare. So we have many institutions that will, let's say, give some kind of platform to the cooperatives, and this ecosystem is hard to export and hard to grow. We have like 40, let's say, we are present in 45 countries, but in these countries we mainly act as another company with subsidiaries, and it's very difficult to export the model if we just export the production plants or the R&D facilities, or we have to export the whole model, and this is hard to do. I mean, this is not so easy, and I think this is part of the success and part of the limitations for why do we don't export and why don't we expand this model. It has to do with cultural issues, and but I would like to take the minute you give me the chance, because normally I just preach in the University of Mondragon, and now I can preach to much more higher education institutions. And it has to do with funding. I mean, one of the things as companies and ecosystem, the companies has to do much more for the lifelong learning. It's not just an issue of higher education or the wide-based providers. There are a lot of things to do in companies, and they have to do their job, and we have to do our job also. But one of the jobs is we have to increase our investment in learning, because at the end of the day we have to, nowadays if we take this as a budget, yearly budget, and what can I do in a yearly budget, the investment in training goes very low. And the university has to change your business model. I mean, the business model of the university is teaching full-time students paid by their families or paid with a loan by the students. If we want to go through a business that is linked to lifelong learning, companies has to put more money. We are trying to build some kind of reskilling fund, which can give us much higher or long way support. We cannot support the change of a model with yearly competitive governmental help programs. You don't do it with a year. You do experiment, you do piloting, you do things, but you cannot really afford a change in the business model. And I think we have to go through a much longer, much bigger and much longer view funding mechanism to be really successful in this change, because the university has not the monopoly of knowledge. Neither. This is over long ago. The many providers of robotics, of SAP, they have a very, very good knowledge. So the knowledge of the providers of the digitalization, the companies, they have a lot of knowledge. So it's about collaboration, and collaborating needs funding. And I think that the changing the way the public institutions fund the the training or the learning programs is another very important issue.
Thank you. And this will be an issue with this address in our community. But I would like to finish now just by thanking the four panelists to be with us and for the keynote speech as well. Really interesting food for thought. Mondragon is not something that can be exported around the world. I think there's several PhDs in social, that's what I said when I went to Mondragon. There's several social science PhDs in what you do and if it can and cannot be exported. But the regional dimension is the other really important thing that runs through all our work. And finally, just to say with the Institute of Practice, is that you're all welcome to join because they want to be open, not just our members, not just professional higher education, but we do have to find out where we fit in to this partnership. What's our role? You know, because we're kind of in the middle between the research intensive, the basic research, and the vet. What is our role? We don't do basic research. Sorry, Adolfo. We don't. We do applied research. But where do we come in this continuum? And it's the same for skills. You know, we're not just providing sector skills, not just providing broad competencies maybe that the universities do. We are in the middle and we have to kind of find our niche and that's the only way we can do that is to talk to each other. And that's what this community practice is all about. So thank you, this part is finished. We'll have a coffee. We're going to have a trip now to this wonderful exotic island in the river. And Jonathan,
No. Yeah, now it's working. Just a quick note about what follows next. We'll have like 15 minutes for a coffee, just outside the door, the main door here. And we are traveling to the island of Zorrozaurre. Okay, I think it's quite an interesting story that the one that we will tell you a little bit about. We will tell you a little bit about the history of the city of Bilbao, with its industrial past and how it's been revitalizing the whole city and being how a city can be reborn and not forgetting its past industrial past. So we will tell you a little bit about that story. For that we need to take a bus, right, which unfortunately we cannot take close to this building. So we need to walk like 200 meters. It's quite close from here. I hope it's not raining, okay? So please, after the coffee, follow me, and I will guide you to the bus. We will have a short visit to our campus there. It's a similar ecosystem. We will explain you about that ecosystem. We will have lunch and then come back here again for the workshops in the afternoon. Yeah, we will come back here for the workshops. Okay, so see you now.